The CometCast
Ayo,
provides insight.
Come on, we do this every single time. There's no need to do it again.
Oh, come on, girl. Just let her finish.
The CometCast provides insight to the academic and personal lives of school community members in the Mason City schools during the pandemic. Unlike other podcasts in the educational space, CometCast keeps it informative and entertaining as students and staff recount their lived experiences during such a unique time.
Hey, yo, what's good, y'all? I'm Emil. I was a host for episode 5. Welcome to the final episode of our CometCast.
Hello, besties. I'm Ashita, and I was one of the hosts for episode 3. Go check that out if you haven't.
Oi, I'm Georgina, and I was also host for episode 5, if y'all remember us.
I mean, it was the last episode. If they don't, then that's just sad. Anyways, we all had a reason to join a podcast. Well, at least I did. And I think I speak for everyone when I say it was a great experience.
We wanted to ask everyone who put effort into this podcast what their motive to join was, since some only worked behind the scenes.
We've gathered some of our team members' responses, but before we listen to some, we'll tell our reasons. Amu, why do you want to join the podcasts?
I wanted to join because I wanted to make more friends in this whole online situation. And I've never been in a podcast before, so I wanted to try something new. Georgina, what about you?
For me, doing a podcast seemed fun, and it wasn't something I've done before, so it seemed like a cool new experience. Ashita?
Honestly, I wanted to join this team because I needed something to do. Being online became a little bit more boring than I thought it would, but it turned out to be a pretty fun experience.
It looks like that we all have very similar reasons. Now that we've answered, let's move on to other team members' responses.
First, we have Mr. Little, a staff member that helped a lot with our podcast.
When I first heard about the podcast, the opportunity to work with such an amazing group of young kids who were excited to share their story, it was an irresistible opportunity for me. The idea of kids having an open-ended project where they get to practice creativity, get to practice collaboration and communication skills. Those are some of the things that drive me and that I'm super excited about in the first place. So this was just a great natural fit. Plus, once we had the chance to meet these fabulous young people who were involved in the podcast creation, it was just flat out fun to have the chance to work with them and watch them take an idea and turn it into something that they'll be able to go back and listen to or show their grandkids several years in the future. It's just really exciting.
You heard it, ladies and gentlemen. We are fabulous young kids.
Period.
Next up, we got Nayara. She works behind the scenes for the social media marketing.
This podcast was like an opportunity for me to show my creativity. For example, when I created our logo, it was a chance that I probably wouldn't have if it wasn't for this podcast. It was also an opening door for me to make new friends and meet new people.
But you've got to agree, that logo is lit.
Yes, sir.
Now we have Geethika, who is part of the writing team. She and a couple others are behind all the show notes.
The reason that I wanted to be part of this podcast is because that I never have had an opportunity like this, and I also thought it was a really cool idea and project to be part of. And also another really great thing that came out of this podcast was I got to meet a bunch of new people, and I also got to make a lot of friends, and I'm really close with them now. So that's why I wanted to be part of the podcast.
You're right. This was a super cool opportunity.
Our next castmate is Alyssa, who is also part of the social media marketing team.
Castmate?
Yeah, like classmate, but castmate. I went, but you couldn't see that.
Okay then, ignore her. She's just weird, like always.
Rude.
Anyways, cue Alyssa's recording.
I wanted to be a part of this podcast because it is something new and different for me. I've never done anything like this before, so I thought this would be a really cool experience. I love marketing, so it was very fun to help manage our Instagram page and to help get our podcast onto all these different platforms. I am so happy that I could be a part of it. It was so much fun.
I mean, managing the Instagram page was pretty fun. Go follow us.
Oh my lord, not the shameless plug.
I mean, say less. At CometCast, no spaces, all lowercase.
Our next castmate, as we like to call it, is Mrs. Spieler, an online teacher at MMS who also helped us a lot with our podcast.
So, we sticking with castmate?
Yes.
The sole reason that I got into education was to help students share their stories, to understand that their voice matters, their story matters, and that they had something worthy of sharing. So this podcast project is near and dear to my heart because I know this story matters, and I want students to feel empowered to be able to share their stories with the outside world.
I don't know about you guys, but I feel pretty empowered right now.
Duh. Now we have Veda, another member of the writing team. Working behind the scenes, she's behind most of the emails and show notes.
I wanted to be a part of this podcast because I really liked the idea of creating a podcast that talked about an event that we were all part of and have experienced. During this project, I made a lot of friends, talked to a lot of people that were also part of this podcast. I felt like this was a creative thought and was a great way to improve our teamwork and communication skills. Being a part of this CometCast was a great experience for me.
I know, right? Fooling around in the writing team meeting was the best.
We shouldn't say that. We have to sound professional.
Oh, really, Gina? You and professionalism are not a good match, and you yourself know that.
Shh, not everyone needs to know that.
Next, we have Ashrita, one of our previous hosts from episode 2 and also part of the writing team.
Why I wanted to be in the podcast is because I wanted to make a lot of new friends and I wanted to collaborate more and I wanted to make the best of this COVID situation. So I just wanted to join this group like how I would in person. Like I would probably join a lot of after school activities and stuff. And I wanted to do that online also. So I wanted to join like groups and after school activities and like just make myself busy during the school day instead of just doing work and attending like meetings and classes and yeah.
Obviously, this year hasn't been the best.
Well, thanks a lot, Captain Obvious.
Anyways, moving on. Next, we have Simone, also one of our previous hosts from episode 1 and 4.
The reason I wanted to be in this podcast is because I know how podcasts require some editing and a lot of work to put in, and teamwork. So I really like to challenge myself in it and have some great editing skills. So I thought, why not be part of this wonderful podcast and put my editing skills in use? And the most important, teamwork. I love teamwork. So that's the main reason I wanted to be in this podcast.
The challenge about this episode was working with these two.
Excuse me?
Miss Girl.
Kidding.
Well, to be honest, I am pretty challenging to work with.
Yeah, she kind of is.
You're not supposed to agree. Anyway, our next castmate is Mrs. Armenio, another staff member that helped us a lot with this experience.
Did you finally decide to use the term castmate?
Don't make me change my mind, girl.
When I joined this group, I was just very curious about podcasting and what this group was going to do. And as soon as I met this incredible group of students, I was all in. I knew that they had a vision to tell the story of COVID experiences over the last year, and they have created amazing podcasts that tell us.
I mean, we did use Zoom to record, so it wasn't that easy.
Next up, we have Vade, another one of our previous hosts from episode 1 and 3.
aka the Mayo Kid.
I had a tremendous experience being in the CometCast, and I can't really express it enough. It was so much fun, and I enjoyed every single moment of it. From the beginnings where it started, just at the beginning of January of this year. It just started as a little bit of offer just to try something, but it soon evolved into a reality. At first we were like, maybe we could do this, maybe we can't. It just started out as an idea, but later on it progressed, and our team's perseverance and grit held the line. We all made great relationships along the way, and it was really fun.
For real, it's crazy to be thinking that just in January we were talking about it, and now we have the podcast on Spotify, Google, Apple, etc.
Our next person is Darun, who was also a host for episode 1 and 3.
I was in one of those lunch and learn meetings when Dr. Mott brought up the podcast. I'm like, wait, there's a podcast? I have to be part of it. I've really wanted to do a podcast for a long time, so this was really fun. I got to make the intro and outro music for the podcast, as well as the trailer at the beginning, and that was really fun. And then I also got to host episode 1 and 3, which was just amazing. I also got to edit episode 3, which was really fun. I'm just glad that I was a part of this podcast, and I'm very grateful for it. It let my creativity soar.
That's funny. I joined a team a month after it started.
Our last castmate is someone who made this podcast the way it is, the one who made this possible.
I have loved being part of this podcast community we've created with the CometCast. A few reasons, but chief among them is that these students that have been part of this are world changers, and getting to be a part of this amazing staff and student community that we have created with this project has been a true joy. Students, the way you tell these stories and the way you engage our staff to tell the stories of the past year is incredible. Don't ever forget the ways that your story matters and that we can always learn something from the journeys we go through together. It has been an honor to be part of this with you all, and I am so thankful for any listener out there who has supported us along the way. Go Comets!
I mean, she is the reason we're all friends right now.
For real, she's amazing, and she treats us more like friends than students.
Well, as you guys should know by now, we end every episode with a Mason moment.
A she-ta-ta-ta, you share.
Well, my Mason moment was probably the in-person podcast meet we had. It was really cool to see everyone in real life and just a really fun experience.
Yup, sure was. Thanks for tuning in to episode 6 of the CometCast.
Make sure to check out episode 7.
That was it.
Well then, thanks for tuning into the last episode of the CometCast.
Thanks for joining us on season 1. We appreciate your support and are glad to have you as a listener.
CometCast out!